Welcome to Night Shift. Jeff Sharon here with you. We got Elo, Eric Lopez. We got the student game, Kyle Nash. We got cousin Nikki, Nick Morcelli in the house. We got lots to talk about. We are, this is not our pre-Thanksgiving show. Thanksgiving's already next week. It's rainy and cold out. It's starting to feel like Florida fall football weather out there. We had a epic space game. I mean, it was like, did James Cameron direct that? Like, it was the uniforms and the 45-3 and the would we or won't we against Ollie Gordon, and then the absolute deluge that happened. I mean, it was just glorious. We were going to talk about that. We're going to talk about men's and women's basketball as they are now fully underway. Women dodged a bullet from Anderson University in Anderson, South Carolina, a school that, by the way, that I'm familiar with from a past life. We're also going to talk men's soccer. They are in the NCAA tournament. Eric, they got a national seed, just like you were projecting, perhaps not as high as they would have wanted. They are a 12, potential rematch with West Virginia around the corner. We'll break that down a little bit. And of course, volleyball trying to hang on and survive through the gauntlet. But let's start with football. Your UCF Knights are back to 500, baby. Here we go. 45-3. This was the interesting stat. Did you guys see the stat from this game? It was the first time that an unranked team beat a team ranked in the top 15 by 40 points or more since 1997.
Didn't see that specific stat, but there's all sorts of crazy stuff out there coming from this game, Jeff Sharon. Let me tell you what.
Let's start with the most obvious one that you guys talked about on Night Shift Live after the game, and just wrap up on this, because how did the nation's 127th ranked rush defense hold the nation's leading rusher to 25 yards?
I mean, it helps knowing what they're going to do at some point, right? I'm just going to throw that out there. At some point.
Okay, fine. But like, that's been the MO on Oklahoma State all year. I mean, and they still managed to do it.
You know, I mean, and that's a fair question. In a couple ways, you know, the turnovers. Like, listen, Jeff, for all the weeks that you shout about turnovers, in this one, I really think that's the answer. The turnovers and the momentum, such as they were amazing. By the way, let's also pair it up with some aggression on offense. We haven't seen passing the ball in some time, my friend. And this isn't me saying that the UCF coaching staff should have done that the entire year. I'm not going that way, like I would with the defense getting the secondary more involved with the run game, which I think is also an element. I mean, Jeff, listen, man, this isn't any just one thing. I had as much trouble processing this game and all the anomalies up there with last year, or not last year, the year before, Michigan, the Michigan game where in men's basketball, where everybody just went off and was hitting threes from everywhere, you know, where Brandon Mayhead and Darren Green were just chucking it from the cheek.
It was the kitchen sink game.
Yeah. This is the football version of that, for those that can make the UCF comparison between the sports there, meaning like anything that could go right did go right. And Murphy had no law in this game.
Elo, it was so impressive that you had cause to reevaluate your top bounce house wins of all time, putting this one in the top 6. Is that fungible given how these last 2 regular season games might play out?
I think it is. I don't think it matters what happens the next 2 regular season games from the long-term standpoint, because with respect to Cincinnati, in the official record books will say Cincinnati is the first Big 12 win. This is the real first Big 12 win. And you know this based on how based on the fans and how they celebrated and enjoyed it. And I told Kyle, it reminded me a lot of the 05 Marshall game. Anybody that was there at the Citrus Bowl with where the UCF had this long losing streak. They finally beat Marshall. Everybody was just happy to win that game. They get on the field and storm, and all that.
The monsoon.
No, that was 2011.
No, that wasn't the monsoon. This was the streak breaker.
Yeah, I beg your pardon. I got it mixed up. My fault.
Yeah. But this was a genuine joy. That really was the whole game. I think it started with the offense playing so well. John Rice Plumlee and R.J. Harvey had legendary games of their careers. I was really happy for Plumlee because I think this is his legacy game. Same with Harvey. Defensively played their best game of the year. I think Oklahoma State clearly played their worst game of the year. We did discuss this last week. The whole Bedlam hangover, I think, played a factor.
Mm-hmm.
When the team forgets to bring the rain gear to Florida, maybe mentally you're not all in, but I think this is a game fans will remember. In a way, this salvages the year because 20 years from now, when fans think of 2023, the first year of the Big 12, we're not going to think about Villanova. We're not going to think about Cincinnati. We're not going to think about what happens with Texas Tech or Houston. We're going to think about this Oklahoma State game. That's what you're going to remember. Just like fans in 2000, when you bring up the 2000 UCF football season, you're going to bring up the Alabama win. You're not bringing up losing to Akron or Northern Illinois that year. Nobody remembers that. You're bringing it because you remember the Alabama game. That's why it was a special for the program. It could turn this program into a turning point where they go on a nice run here this year and next year and beyond. Who knows? We don't know that yet. That's why, as I wrote on the article, blackandgoldbanneret.com. Thank you. It's too early to rank it all time. But I do think it's early. It is not too early to rank. This is one of the great memorable days in the Bounce House history. That's why I ranked it 6. And it could go up or, depending on how this game, ages. But it was a fun day. And it's something that I think it gives the fans confidence back of what the future holds going to the Big 12, that, hey, we're now a Big 12 school.
John Rice Plumlee, only 11 of 18, but 299 and 3 touchdowns, all 3 of them to Kobe Hudson. R.J. Harvey, 24 carries, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, first of all, where's this performance in the individual? Almost like it's basically like the Kevin Smith Award, right? Like we saw so many incredible performances from him, Eric. But where's this performance by R.J. Harvey kind of land in the single game running back performances?
Top 10 all time, over 200 yards. But an interesting point has developed here with R.J. Harvey. And Kyle has kind of mentioned this throughout the year in his night class articles.
Bing.
You can make this argument. I think it's now time to make this argument. R.J. Harvey might be having the best year a running back has had since Kevin Smith. He has quietly been the bell cow of this running game. Remember Big Kyle in the beginning of the year? Oh, we have all these running backs. It might be by committee. R.J. Harvey's like, no, this is my backfield. This is my offense.
I'm the captain now.
Right. And he's having a heck of a year. He reminds me a little bit of Alex Haynes back in the day, since I'll bring up the early 2000s UCF teams. This is his offense. This is an offense, UCF quietly, by the way. It's been productive all year. It's moved the ball, which you have brought up, Kyle. Certain things have kind of prevented it from being a great offense at times, whether it be the third down conversions, which you have discussed early in the year, turnovers, etc. But this offense has been good. And John Rice Plumlee has actually been good when he's been healthy.
Eighth in the country in total offense right now. 3rd in the country in rushing offense. RJ has over 1,000 yards on the season. 17th in pass efficiency. And I know you talked about the third downs, Cal, but they're tied for 8th in the country in third down percentage.
Right. Well, and
49.6%.
Right.
I think the timeliness of it has been a little off.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. And
So,
by the way, if we're gonna give RJ Harvey all these props, and in the words of Joel Klatt, and rightly so, I think the thing we need to add on is the Power 5 schedule in here. One thing Kevin Smith never had was that there was no Kansas State back-to-back, followed by Oklahoma and West Virginia on the docket. And West Virginia is supposed to be the break, air quotes. And Baylor's somewhere in there too. I know I skipped them, but
they were in between Kansas State. The two.
Yeah, thank you. I just realized that when I said it. Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
We'll just chalk it up to you like casting it out of your brain. It's fine.
I mean, I thought I was doing the public a favor. Yes, thank you, Jeff. No, but with all the above in question, like the Power 5 schedule, the difficulty that was supposed to keep on giving or taking, depending on your point of view, was something the UCF was criticized, certainly back in Kevin Smith's day and leading up to now. Guess what? R.J. Harvey has said, forget all that. And by the way, with an offensive line who even to this day, Coach Malzahn will tell you, they still don't have a solid and set starting 5.
Yeah, I mean, but let's spin this forward now to the next game against Texas Tech, because this is going to be, Eric, you mentioned that the TV is going to be kind of rough for this game. There's some wonky stuff happening. First of all, first trip all the way out to Lubbock, out in God knows in Lubbock, Texas. All right. 5 o'clock kick.
That's right, baby.
Weird. Like I said, it's out there in the wet, and Texas Tech, they're having a weird year too. They come in 5-5. Started with a loss.
Well, they don't want to hear about our injury excuses. I'll tell you that.
Fair enough, but they lost. First of all, they opened their season with an overtime loss at Wyoming, and then they lost by 8 to Oregon, who we were talking about earlier has had a pretty good year. They've lost to West Virginia, at West Virginia, home at Kansas State, and at BYU. They've won home Houston, at Baylor, home TCU by 7, and they're coming off of a win at Kansas, 16-13 last week in a big upset. What's Eric? I want to start, or actually, no, Kyle. I'll start with you. What is your read on Texas Tech? Because I can't get a feel for them.
Yeah, no,
they are aggressively average in every category.
That's a great way to put it. And to your point, injuries make the read tough. Yeah, you're 100% right on that. All the way around. I think it was Eric that dropped that in. Yeah, it's really hard to read that, but especially when, by the way, you have a UCF defensive coordinator in Addison Williams, who's really apparently starting to find his way and figure it out a little bit, right? He's come in, gave, in no particular order, gave Oklahoma a bit of a hard time. I know there's some stuff in the between there, and then comes back, gets the first win, even though Eric doesn't think it counts, against Cincinnati, but able to give the running yards, but still win the total game, right? And then come in and smash the leading rusher in the nation. Granted, with the help of the gods and rain and stuff like that. But, I think it's even tougher if you're Texas Tech to prepare for a team who's ascending. You don't know exactly what you're going to get there either.
It is a very uncharacteristic Texas Tech team.
Yeah,
this was a team that before the year, a lot of people thought could be a sleeper in the Big 12. They were picked 4th, actually, by in the preseason poll. They've had injuries to their quarterback. Their starting quarterback at the beginning of the year has been hurt, is out. The backup quarterback is banged up because I watched the Kansas game. We actually watched it in the press box when they upset Kansas. The receivers are average. This is all un-Texas Tech-like, because this is all you're used to. You're used to seeing Texas Tech being this incredible passing team that can't stop anybody. This is the complete opposite.
Well, you're used to Mike Leach, Texas Tech.
Well, but even after
a long time ago.
But even after Mike Leach,
God rest him, Mike Leach.
Cliff Kingsbury teams were the same thing. But what they do have is, again, another great running back. This is one thing we've learned about the Big 12 is they're not short on running backs. Taj Brooks is really good. He is their offense. He's rushed for nearly 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's averaging over 100 yards a game. Their defense is pretty good. Held Kansas to 13 points. Granted, Kansas's backup quarterback got hurt, so they were down to their 3rd string quarterback in that game. So read however you want to read into it. But it's a Texas Tech team that is playing on Senior Day, and it's a big game for them. They're 5-5. They play at Texas next weekend. Ooh. So if they want to go bowl eligible, their best chance is probably to win this game and not worry about the Texas game. I wouldn't plan on that. So they're going to be ready to play.
Oh, but they're going to. I could play that the other way though. They want Texas because Texas is leaving the conference.
No, they can want them all they want. That mean they're going to beat them in Austin, Texas.
I think this is something where both things are simultaneously true here. By the way, to Eric's point, they want this one. And listen, should they succeed against the Knights? Hey, we want Texas to send them off. Will be its own motivation once that week gets here. Either way, I think I kind of agree with Eric on that. But everything you just said about Texas Tech, buddy, tells me that if I'm Addison Williams, same game plan, gentlemen. Attack aggressively, crush the run, dare whatever string quarterback they're on right now to beat you.
Agreed. 100%. 100% agreed. But the thing with UCF is they got to take the trip to Lubbock. We'll see how that trip goes. Is there a hangover from Oklahoma State
together back to back? That's the other
thing. So this is a mysterious game, which is why it's on a mysterious channel on a mysterious time.
I know that road games have been panicky for fans, but something I feel like I have to remind the Knight Nation just as it is. First of all, previous road game was the first Big 12 win officially. I know there's an asterisk according to some people on the committee and in Melbourne.
There's no asterisk. It's entirely in their own brains. Go ahead.
I say what I said.
It's a fact. I tell the fans that stormed the field. In fact, we have 2 of them here in the room.
More on that later. But with all that in mind, guys, like I feel like something that's overplayed with the worries about road travel is how many of the road games in question in Gus Malzahn's tenure have been started by actual starting quarterbacks, specifically John Rice Plumlee.
Well, how many have been in Lubbock, though, Kyle? That is a unique trip.
No, and I'm not discounting that. That's the best reason to worry. It's a long trip. Not, oh, golly jeepers, UCF is bad on the road. Not so much, in my opinion. Sorry, Jeff. But I feel like that has to be accounted for. And by the way, what I've noticed with John Rice is when he starts to streak in a good direction, he doesn't really drop off really bad typically. So there's that.
Well, I thought the key, last week was JRP ran the ball early. And I think that'll probably be a key this week too, because I think it's for a couple things. It set the tone for the offense. It also put kind of planted the seed in the defense's mind, like, oh, he's mobile now. Okay. So we can't just keep him back there. And I think it helps get JRP into the flow of the offense a little better when he's actually, when he's not having to stop himself and say, oh crap, I can't run because of my knee. It got him involved and into the flow a little bit. Didn't you think, Kyle?
Absolutely. And the way he was super intelligent in protecting himself on those runs too as well, Jeff, I think that kept his brain ticking and controlling the game. I had been critical at times of some of his reads, throughout the season, because his mind is constantly ticking now that he's thinking about, hey, let's get down. I'm thinking that there may be some process in his thinking in that moment, obviously all speculation. I am not psychic, but it's felt like to me that calculated approach helped him calculate overall during a particular drive. Now, granted, can that repeat? Can we see a trend in that? Can I be proven air quotes right there that's consistent? Maybe we'll see in Lubbock, I suppose. Yeah.
All right.
Well, one good point, by the way, Texas Tech has struggled with running quarterbacks, in particular Avery Johnson, the kid from Kansas State. Remember we talked a lot, oh, he might play against UCF. Turns out he didn't play.
Pretty good San Antonio Spur, by the way. Anyway, sorry. I had to.
Former head coach. There you go. Ran all over Texas Tech's defense. I would not be shocked if Plumlee has a big game running the ball against this defense.
Tech right now is a 2-point favorite. It opened at 3. Over under is 60. Elo, what do you think?
Money's on UCF, rightfully so. I think UCF is the better team, the healthier team. It's a cautious game because you don't know where UCF kind of is there a hangover from the Oklahoma State game? How is the flight? Is there an interruption in the charter flight or not? I mean,
is there a hangover for Texas Tech having knocked off Kansas too?
I was going to suggest that. Yeah,
maybe if Bill Self was in the sidelines, maybe, but not the other schmuck.
Everybody schmuck.
Yeah, he was probably leaving at the end of the year. He should have. He's smart. Lance Leipold. We'll see. I think it's an interesting game. I think it's an interesting game for both sides. It's and obviously it's going to be an interesting broadcast because it's going to be
all right. 5 o'clock. Eric, yeah, we got to talk about this. All right, 5 p.m. on FS2.
I'm looking it up right now. Yeah,
more like FS who?
Oh,
well,
how long did it take?
All right, trivia question. No one look this up. No one look this up, please. What channel was FS2 before it was FS2?
Oh, wasn't it like Racing Channel? Something like that?
You're getting warmer.
Sunshine. No, I don't know. Speed
Network. Bryson jumped in to say it was the Speed Channel. No, FS1 was the Speed Channel.
Oh.
I don't know, man. When I found out that's what we were going to be broadcast on, that was my reminder that this channel still exists.
It's still there. It's still there.
What do we got?
Kyle, you got to get Eric.
NASCAR? I don't know.
Yeah, my guess would have been the Speed Channel too. Apparently, I got that blown up.
Fuel TV.
Oh, Phil, Fuel TV.
Fuel TV. It wasn't so much racing as much as it was extreme sports back in the day.
Correct. Yeah.
But anyway, shout out to First Well Fuel TV. But Eric, what you said in your column that's on blackandgoldbanner.com.
I just found the channel.
That you have it. Okay.
Yeah, they're doing live European qualifiers right now in FS2. Qualifying right now. Sweden's down 2.
You're not projecting a particularly high number for this.
No, I'm not.
And that's a shame because coming off of a million plus for Oklahoma State, and I think we're finding out, the difference between ESPN and the Fox networks right now, right?
Correct. I mean, the Oklahoma State game did 1.2 million. That's more than the last 3 FS1 games combined that UCF has been on. Probably will be combined the last 4 UCF FS1, FS2 games combined. I also have news for you. The Houston game next week. I know it's on a 6-day hold. I'm going to go on a limb and say that's not going to have a good time slot either.
It will not. Yeah.
No. So look, I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's the Big 12. Obviously, they're down on the pecking order. The Big 10 and the SEC have their top pecking orders in their respective channels. Then you have the ACC, whether like it or not, they are drawing very well. Florida State, for example, 8 has gotten over 4 million viewers in that handful of games already this year. So it's a lot of competition.
And don't they close for Florida, Elo? That's a big deal.
That's a big game. Prime time ESPN. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, here's the other thing though too is when UCF was atop the American, they were a real draw for the American, right? So they would put them in good time slots where the American had them. Middle of the pack to the lower third of the Big 12, you're kind of not going to get there. Now, if UCF was in a position that, say, Oklahoma State was in, at least at this point, top 3, top 4 in the conference, be a different scenario, right?
It would help a little bit. I think next year, something to look for, because Brett Yormark said this on Big 12 Media Days. Look for a lot of Big 12 games, a decent amount to be on Thursday, Friday nights. I think they're going to be the power conference that you're going to see even more on Thursday and Friday. Big 10's going to have some games too, but I think that's where the Big 12 you're going to have more exposure. And don't be shocked if UCF's involved in some of those Thursday, Friday night games next year, just because there's only so many slots that you can have that you're not going to have and the SEC next year will be on ABC, ESPN exclusively. So they're gonna gobble up as many of the slots in particular. They still have the ACC package. Fox has the Big 10, which also is going to be on CBS and NBC. So I mean, now the Big 12 they'll get some more slots as a result of the death of the Pac-12, which will help.
Oh yeah, and help me with this, Elo. You're way more well educated on this than I am. But the movement of the SEC to ESPN exclusively, as you say, they're on Fox right now, so that would open those slots theoretically, right?
It would be. Like, I think that Fox 3:34. Remember the Kansas game where it was a 4:00 Fox game? I think that's going to be a Big 12 slot moving forward.
Got it.
Right. The Big 10. I mean, Fox is always going to just put up Ohio State, Michigan game of the week at noon. I mean,
yeah.
But
by the way, this week at 4 they have Oregon at Arizona State.
Correct. Next year that'll
Fox.
be a Big 12 game. I think next year that'll be a Big 12 game because there is no Pac-12 to put there.
And they're putting Texas at Iowa State on at 8 on Fox.
I could see that too. Yeah, 4:00, 8:00. I think those you're going to get some better.
It's this coming Saturday. That's in there right now.
But remember, next year you're also going to have Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, part of the Big 12. So you're still going to get some West Coast games added there as well. So that's going to be it. You're going to get some UCF games probably at 10:00 at night.
But if we're playing out there though, right? Go ahead, Bryson. Yeah. Bryson Turner's in with us, by the way.
Hello. Yeah, I had class, so I got it. I just got out of it a little bit ago.
Nobody cares.
So interesting FS2 fact. According to the sportsmediawatch.com, they always put together a chart with the ratings and viewership numbers for college football games. The last time an FS2 game got on the list at all that they did was actually a couple of weeks ago in week 9. Wyoming and Boise State played played at 5:30 on the channel, drew 169,000 people.
Woo!
FS2 has not even made. FS2 has not even made the list. The last 2
That's
weeks,
actually, to be honest with you, this year that's actually a decent matchup on that channel, but not a great.
100 over under 169K, Eric Lopez.
Ooh.
Well, I had the number 175 if you read my article, so we're not too far
he's
off.
going
I'm going to go.
slightly over. Yeah,
Although I could see it going, and part of this too depends on how the game plays out. Is it a blowout? Is it a good game? Can people actually literally find the channel? I mean, remember last year the Georgia Tech game on ESPNU? This is not just was only 107,000 viewers, which has been the least watched UCF football game on linear in a while. The other thing is, look, UCF's got to win big to be interesting. That just is what it is.
You don't think this most recent game might bring a little momentum?
Not to this game. No.
Okay, I'm just checking.
The casual people have tuned out. That's what I mean. The casual people are tuning in if you're 9-3, 10-2. Remember, you're in a market in the state where you're competing against Gator eyeballs, Seminole eyeballs, Alabama. I mean, there's a lot of competition. So that probably hurts as well as, it's easier to find ABC than FS1. So again, it's not an accident. Oklahoma State, Kansas are your 3 most watched games this year, had the 3 best TV slots they've had all year.
All right. 5 o'clock FS2, UCF against Texas.
Guy Haberman will be on the call. At least there is no Eric Collins, Devin Gardner on this one. Now, whether they're there in Lubbock, that's a whole other story.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Basketball is underway, and let's check in with the men's team first. They're actually playing. We're recording this on Thursday, November 16th. They're playing later tonight against Cal State Fullerton, 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Men's team is 1-1. They got down in Coral Gables. It was tight late. Final was 88-72, but UCF got within 6 late. Kyle Nash. Before in a kind of a weird game that was a little bit more high scoring than usual. I was actually ever the optimist. I was actually encouraged by the performance overall because I think we saw how physical UCF was, and playing against a team with all these new guys against the number 13 team in the country in their building. I thought UCF stacked up pretty well physically, just didn't make the shots when they needed to, Kyle, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fine take. By the way, let's not rule out too that Miami shot over 50%, from the floor themselves. So they had an excellent day shooting. I mean, you're coming out shooting 41%. You're not terrible, but yeah, the point you make about the physicality, about battling and standing up to a ranked team is in itself impressive. I was impressed by it. By the way, Omar Payne fouling out too, certainly a factor as well.
Yeah, especially down the stretch.
Right, exactly. So with all that, as part of that physicality piece, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff I see here that makes me, encouraged. Like they won the rebound battle, man. That's not supposed to happen against a ranked team, but here we are.
Yeah. Nick, you were keeping an eye on that one as well. What did you see that was an improvement even from game one? Obviously, the win against FIU moving forward against Miami that you want to see more of tonight.
I would say an individual player, and I know I'm going to mess his name up because he's a freshman from Berlin, Germany. Niels
Mahowski, yeah.
Niels Mahowski, yeah. You should know how to say
that was real quick right there. He sounds like a true PA guy, right?
This is what I do. Go ahead.
And I had the opportunity to talk to him yesterday in the weekly press conference, coming off the bench.
Say, where would we see that there, Nick Porcelli?
Why, you can find that on the Black and Gold Banner at YouTube page. Bing! There we go. But yeah, so he came off the bench. I believe he had 13 points. He was the team's leading 3-point shooter. I think he might have hit all his threes, 3 for 3.
Yep, 3 for 3. I have the box score right here. Yes, that is correct. 5 for 7 overall.
Yeah. So he had a lot. So in the short pinch that they put him in, he performed really well, and especially as a freshman with a lot of years left, I'd like to see how he can play with a few more minutes. So I'd like to see him get some more minutes tonight.
Yeah.
It's a crowded guards group, though.
Yeah, it is crowded, but we saw Jalen Sellers go 9 of 21 from the field, 22 and 11. I really like what I'm seeing. I mean, yeah, he was 0 for 7 from 3-point range, but boy, he is really physical, and I love seeing that.
Coach Dawkins mentioned that in his press conference. He really liked that. Like, everyone's talking about the points. He has back-to-back 20-plus point games. But what he's really liking out of him is the rebounding. Like, he's really
team leading rebounder against Miami.
Yeah, he's the team's leading rebounder.
A guard leading rebounds. How about that?
Hey, it's not like we didn't see it last year with CJ Kelly on occasion, gentlemen, even with an NBA caliber player on the floor, right? Of course, for those who don't remember Taylor Hendricks, I can't help it, right? But yeah, no, this is people are going to think it's weird to say this, but from that standpoint, he's the CJ Kelly replacement. And Bryson, I know you're saying the crowd, it's crowded with the guards. Kind of having an oversized guard double as a 3 is a thing that Johnny does. And it's because he loves covering coast to coast, having that ability to crash everywhere on the floor on defense. Nick, I don't know if you noticed this, but defense kind of a big thing for Johnny. Kind of a staple.
You don't say.
I know. It's wild.
Cal State Fullerton made the tournament last year, lost in the first round to Duke, but this is a school that's or a team that's had some pretty decent success over the last few years. Kind of an unusual appointment an opponent out of the Big West. Dedrick Taylor, their head coach, in his 11th season. Interestingly enough, actually, his playing career took him. This guy's familiar with the West Coast, right? UC Davis. He was an assistant at Arizona State for a long time, but he's been at Cal State Fullerton for a while now. Elo, I want to wrap this up with you. Is this a bit of a warning sign here? Like, we had a few of these games last year, where there's an opponent that maybe doesn't look like a marquee opponent at first glance on the schedule, but they'll jump up and bite you if they're not careful. And Cal State Fullerton has done that to more than a few people throughout history.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree with that. Because I think people kind of fall into the trap of, hey, all these games are in the state of Florida. It's not that difficult of a schedule. No. He has snuck in quality mid-major teams that are willing to come to the state of Florida. And it's not just this game. I mean, Fullerton, like the Miami game, I'm not going to take too much. Miami's really good. They're a Final Four team last year. They might be the second best team in the ACC, if not the best, depending on what you believe in Duke this year. But you look at this week, you've got Fullerton at home. I'm glad you brought it up. They're defending Big West champs, playing the NCAAs last year. Then they go out to Jacksonville, St. Augustine, where you got teams like South Dakota State, which has been a consistent team into the NCAAs that have been one of those best mid-major programs. This is going to be a challenge for a team that's still trying to figure themselves out, for a group that is still not fully intact. To me, we're going to learn a lot more about this team in the next week than we are from the Miami game, in my opinion, because – and this is why I get into it with the fans, because they all flip out. They look at the name. Oh, I don't know this team. Yeah, I get it. Cal State Fullerton doesn't play football. You know what? They got a good basketball program, and they're really good in the other sports too. There's other sports other than football.
Lopez caping up for a stickball school. Like, Fullerton looks really good as a basketball team.
This is the second ever meeting between these two teams, by the way. 2018 UCF won by 16 points, way back 2018. So.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about this is both teams are coming in. They nearly have the same story, same record. Both losses coming to a ranked team. Both really could use a win tonight.
Yeah. After this, UCF goes to the Jacksonville Classic this weekend. South Dakota State, another team from out west.
Watch out.
Yeah, that's a red flag game. That's on Sunday. So if you're St. Augustine fans, head out to Flagler Gym. By the way, court at Flagler's Gym, named after the Clark family. Bo Clark, of course, long-time UCF's all-time leading scorer, long-time head coach at Flagler.
His name's in the Raptors.
Yep. South Dakota State will be the first game. Now, the winner of that game at 8 o'clock on Sunday comes back and plays the winner of Charlotte and George Mason at about 8:30 on Monday. The loser of those two games on Sunday, the losers of those two games play at 6 on Monday. By the way, your boy is going to be handling the radio
Wow,
duties
look at
on
that.
Monday.
Look at that, Kyle. Look at that, huh?
Big,
I
huge
love it.
shout out to Mark Daniels for letting me to the Hall of Famer, Mark Daniels,
Yeah, Hall of Fame.
for letting me for letting me fill in for him on Monday. So watch out for that.
For
So
now,
I'm really
Jeff has
excited.
a leg up on you. You haven't filled in for a Hall of Famer officially yet, Eric Lopez. You've just filled in for Mark Daniels.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Matter of time, okay,
Wow.
Kyle. Let's just
It
be
is a
real
matter of
about
time.
that.
No, look, he's going to be fun. Hopefully, we get to hear Jeffrey on the radio because that means UCF would have won.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though it's a later night for Jeff, but I don't think you mind a later night, Jeff.
I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm all that happy to. I'm just happy to be there. Okay.
From the VA desk to the radio booth.
Yeah, it'll be.
But
fun to
South
be on
Dakota
radio.
South Dakota State's really good. That's probably the best team of this run we're going to see. I'm really fascinated the next couple games.
Besides Miami.
Yeah. Besides Miami, I'm just saying. I think these
what
two.
he meant.
Yeah.
And I would not want to sleep on George Mason or Charlotte either A10 or AAC. By the way.
Sure.
Well, the big question to me is, I think Sellers. Credit Michael Donnell. We had him on the show here. He talked about Sellers probably being the leading scorer on this team. I think him and Darius Johnson is a good 1-2 punch offensively. Do we have a consistent third guy? We're going to see in the next few games. I'm curious.
Or do we have guys around the roster that can be a third guy? Like, I feel like this has been true of Dawkins' teams last year. Would it be Michael Durr or, CJ Kelly was often the number 2, but you would have other guys that
Ithiel Horton.
Ithiel Horton was regularly. I mean, I'll put it this way: last year, I would have picked him to be the number 3 guy, but other dudes would step up.
Yeah. All right. So that's our. So three games coming up this week. Pretty quick 3-game turnaround for this team, and 3 games in 5 days. So including that back-to-back. Women's hoops. They are off to a 2-0 start, but Kyle, they got a little bit of a needling from Anderson University in Anderson, South Carolina, D2 school. Pulled away late, 96-73. By the way, UCF is averaging right now 98.5 points per game in the first 2 games. But
yes.
That was a little scary there for a little while, huh?
Well, right. And I mean, I'll put it this way. Anderson came out, hit 7 of their first 9, was feeling it. And then, UCF came back, got their first lead at the end of the first quarter and never lost the lead for the rest of the game. Jeff, in your defense, it was within 2 to 4 at times later on in the game. And especially
that's a little too close for comfort.
I agree. But I mean, in the third quarter, when you look at it, there were 3 technical fouls. Simply because of, let's just say, you remember the NCAA tournament game with Gino Auriemma versus Coach Abe there, Elo? That in that particular game, Gino Auriemma was very frustrated with the fact that of the way they were calling the game overall, and I think Coach Abe too has showed her frustrations as well. Without getting into the refs were good or bad or whatever, they certainly made for physical play to be a challenge. And when you have a Jayla Kelly or a Taylor Gibson or somebody like that who's trying to play physical, when that group's trying to play physical and they're getting hit with fouls, I mean, HO fouled out with 7.5 minutes left in the game. So one could say that well, let's put it this way. The bench was hit with 2 technicals. That should tell you that there was some disagreement in the style of play. But rather than let that slant them, they pulled away after that once they found their focus, once they got used to what the officials were calling. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Still, 6 UCF players ended up in double figures. Caitlin Peterson didn't go as ballistic from 3-point range as she did in the opener, but she ended up leading UCF with 18 points.
Yeah, the ballistics came in the third quarter where she scored 10 points.
76 shots for UCF in this game.
It's a different world, Jeff Sharon.
It's a different look for sure, based on what we were used to from last year. But this is the part that I want to get to is, before we move on. is this the style of play that we intend to see? You know, are we looking at a run and gun team this year?
Find out Monday. We're going to find out Monday against Auburn because they're going to play a real team now. Now it gets real. It's
There's
serious
that
now.
too. I would also argue that they're probably going to press the attack less, and I feel like this incarnation of the UCF women's basketball team is unique and that they're very versatile and can do a lot of things. Listen, and this isn't to take anything away from the iconic team that Coach Abe had the floor, but they were known for one thing. We're coming at you. We're beating the heck out of you. And if you find a way to stop diamond battles, we're going to beat you down on offense too. This team's a bit more versatile. They have a lot of players that can flow. They aren't afraid to chuck it from the cheap seats, and they might sink a few. You know, by the way, worth mention, Morgan Robinson and Wigwu came back for the first time, even though she was here all of last year. Yeah. ACL tear early last year, got her first action, put up double digits. That's something you got to love.
Didn't miss a shot either. 4 for 4 from the field, 4 for 4 from the line.
Something you love to see when you have Nate Hutton missing from the roster currently. So
that's right. Rebounds 58 for UCF in the game against Anderson to just 36 for the Trojans. As Eric mentioned, the next game, Auburn comes to town on the 20th at 7:00. Auburn was picked 12th out of 14 in the SEC. Eric, I know that, but you're saying.
Well, yeah, remember last year Auburn blitzed UCF when they played up in Auburn. So that's why we're going to learn more this Monday night. We're going to play real athletes at your level. With all due respect to Victor Anderson, he's a good friend of ours, but you know that's not competition there that we're playing. But thank you, Kyle. Thank you very much.
Shout out to Victor, who had a college named after him. What have we done in our careers anyway?
Come on, Nash University. When do we get to Nash University somewhere?
I don't know. That's not an honor I've been sharing that I'm aware of.
No. There is a Nash equilibrium in economics. I mean, that's a pretty nice namesake.
I mean, that is true. There is a Nobel Prize.
Well, with Kyle's suits, that would make sense. It would make sense that he's named after economics with his suits that he wears.
Yes, with the but look, anyway,
Auburn is going to be interesting. They have athletes. To me, this is when we're going to learn a lot. With all due respect to the first two opponents, they're cupcakes, as the great Dick Vitale would say, which I'm fine with. You got to learn about your team. I get what you're doing, but we're going to learn a lot more about Auburn. And when they go out to after Auburn, which is they're going out to the tournament. Where is it? Cancun, Jeffrey? Where are they?
Puerto Rico.
So that's what we're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot about this team in the next week.
Sacred Heart, St. John's among the list of opponents there. There's another.
Jackson State also. That's the first game.
That's what I couldn't remember. Yeah.
That's 3 games in 3 days too. That's going to be a bit of a grind there for a little bit.
Exactly.
I know
we're going to let, it's a big game. It's a big game when Kyle is picking the women's game over Chiefs Eagles Monday Night Football. It's a big deal.
All on Flow Hoops.
Yeah, Flow Hoops will be televising that. All right.
We're not doing that. We're not.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on.
Auburn game, ESPN Plus, by the way. Do not get confused. ESPN Plus will be calling the UCF Auburn game. And then make sure you listen to Jeffrey either on the radio. Just follow all the details, UCF men's basketball. It's all the social media platforms.
That's right. It's going to depend on where you hear yours truly will depend entirely on how UCF plays on Sunday. And believe me, I'll update you.
There you go. Just
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
Let's go over to men's soccer. This is the big one right now. Now, after the disappointing showing in the first round of the Sun Belt Tournament, fellas, men's soccer did get a bye in the first round of the NCAA tournament. They got the 12 seed. Eric, you predicted that they would get that bye. But they put now, and by the way, tremendous advantage for them. But for a team that was number 1 in the country just a few weeks ago, I feel like it kind of sticks in their craw a little bit. Nonetheless, they're in the tournament. They face the winner of Vermont and Ryder, who play Thursday evening. That's tonight. Well, as we're recording this, Winner has to come down here to Orlando to play UCF. If UCF wins that game, they would likely play West Virginia, who's the 5 seed. They're also playing the winner of somebody else. I forget who it is, but
Louisville and Dayton.
That's neither here. Thank you. All right. What's the evaluation right now? Because you guys and Nick, you were there. We heard from them. Bryson, I think you heard from them as well. What's the feeling coming into this? Because I'm sure they were disappointed with, I felt like they dropped quite a bit, down to 12 after being number 1 just recently.
That's what happens when you lose to South Carolina, who's in the hundreds. Yeah. And that's the thing. And this is why conference tournaments sometimes are not the best ideas. If UCF doesn't lose to South Carolina or doesn't have to play South Carolina, if the conference tournament was smaller, I think UCF's a top 8 seed. But because they lost to a South Carolina team that was in the hundreds, their RPI plummeted all the way to 12, and that's kind of where the committee decided,
which is fair,
to have it. And I don't have an issue with it. Marshall ended up winning the conference tournament. They got the number 1 overall seed. West Virginia got to the final. They got the 5 seed. Think about it. If UCF gets to the final, maybe they're a 5 seed. So, but it is what it is. The good news is I actually think they got a softer second round matchup than West Virginia, which is odd. Thank you, geography, for making sense out of this. But hopefully they've recovered because they looked a little gassed at the end of the season in their last couple of matches there. So I think that's what this recovery time will help them to make a push. That's the hope.
What kind of a crowd do you think we're expecting for this game here? Because, not number 1. They deserve to get a good atmosphere here for this game. Maybe if not, because if assuming West Virginia pulls through, then it's off to Morgantown. So this might be it.
This could be the last home match if West Virginia gets through. It's a good question. I don't know. The time off. It's an NCAA tournament game. I think they'll get a good crowd. I don't know if it'll be at the level of JMU, which was what was it, Bryson? You were there. Was that the largest crowd ever? The JMU crowd home game? What was it?
It was definitely one of the highest. I think it was a record crowd, if I'm not mistaken. It might be, but even if it wasn't, it is very much up there. I think an interesting factor in all of this, though, is going to be how many people have already left campus for Thanksgiving, because Sunday's the beginning. Like, I have 2 classmates of mine that are already like, because they have to travel really far to be with their families for Thanksgiving week. So and they already left left earlier. So it will be interesting to see how the people leaving for Thanksgiving might potentially affect the attendance to this game, especially since the opponent is going to be either Vermont or Rider, which
not exactly a marquee opponent.
Yeah,
exactly. Because the marquee opponent, when we had a lot of people coming to these men's soccer games, the marquee team was us. Now obviously it did help that South Carolina is a very well-known team. West Virginia, of course, was ranked very highly. And so, point being is that there are a lot of factors that could potentially bring attendance down, but it's an NCAA tournament game. So a lot of people want to support the team. Has UCF ever hosted an NCAA tournament game?
Yes, they've hosted 2019 where they beat Missouri State. I called that match the Cal Jennings Golden Goal to get to their first Sweet 16. They hosted one second round in the 2018. They were upset in 2018. I think they were 12 or 13 seed, ironically enough, that year as well. So, what's up?
Let's hope that doesn't happen again then.
No, I mean, they shouldn't. Hopefully they came out sharp, deep. The crowd, you can make a lot of things. I mean, Orlando City's not playing. That should help them. On the other hand, it is an NFL Sunday that, which is pretty important in this region. So who knows? We'll see. Hopefully it draws well. And then you got a scoreboard watch, see what happens with West Virginia. Because my concern is if you win, got to go to Morgantown here at the end of November, December. What's the weather like for that, boys? That ain't
miserable.
Yeah. So that's going to be a tough draw. Tough draw.
I'm working for the soccer team. What I'm focusing on right now is just promoting the hell out of this, because on paper, this is attracting. It's an NCAA tournament, and we're still nationally ranked, and it's on a weekend. So if I'm them, I'm getting.
Listen, there's a shot for this team. I mean, and that's what I think I wanted to get with you, Eric, on this here is
they can win it.
When you're number 1 in the country at some point, That's a pretty clear indication, unless the whole thing really falls apart, that you are a national title contender.
Well, a men's soccer tournament's always been wide open. I mean, last year Kentucky was the #1 overall seed. They were upset. Your beloved Syracuse Orange. Were they unseeded, or were they like seeded in the teens last year? I don't remember.
I think actually they were a 12 seed. I'll double check, but
double checked what the seed they were, but they ended up winning the national title. The point is, it's a lot more of a crapshoot in the men's game than there is in other NCAA tournaments. So seeding is not as critical as you might think. Obviously, you'd rather be home. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather be in Orlando than in Morgantown, West Virginia. But you got to play out your best soccer, and if you do, you're going to get results. So, yeah, they absolutely have a shot.
Syracuse was a 3, by the way, I should say.
A 3 seed.
Yeah.
I love that ACC. I told you, ACC conference.
Yeah, but they beat Indiana in the final in PKs, and Indiana was a 13. So that's the
one I was. Okay,
yeah.
So that's the one I was thinking about there. So, and I'm pretty sure there was like an unseeded team that made the final for that year, whether it was Creighton or somebody else.
It was Creighton. Creighton was
Creighton
actually there were 2 unseeded: Creighton and who lost to Syracuse in the semis, and Pitt, who lost to Indiana.
So that's right there. So anybody can make it. Creighton, of course, their best player was the National Player of the Year, is now with Orlando City and McGuire. So wide open field. They just got to play well. Get back to what they were doing, and hopefully this time off will help them out against whoever they play, whether it be Rider or Vermont. I would expect whoever wins that match is more of a defensive style against UCF, so UCF's going to have to be patient offensively. I think Vermont or Rider, whoever wins, is going to try to play this a 0-0 as long as they can and maybe steal a goal.
Yeah, they're going to try. Yeah, it's like it's almost like one of those World Cup games between, like, what do you do if you're, Fiji and you're playing Brazil, right? You're trying to, slow everything down, get to PKs and take your chances with the luck of the draw. Sunday, 6 p.m. at UCF. Knights play the winner of Vermont and Rider. Those 2 teams play tonight, Thursday night, 6 p.m. if you want to scout for that one. And then who knows? We'll see what happens if UCF plays at West Virginia, or if West Virginia gets knocked out.
Which is not crazy. Louisville, Dayton, that's actually a tougher draw. So especially if they get Louisville, that could be interesting. If you're a Knight fan, root for Louisville or Dayton.
Right. Yep. We're pulling for Louisville and Dayton. All right. Whoever wins that game, which is also going on Thursday night, 7:00 on that one. All right. Last little bit, volleyball. The gauntlet continues, and it's rough. For the volleyball team, yeah, Bryson, I hear you. It's
Bryson. That was me.
Well, that was you, Nick. Okay,
I was at the BYU game, man. That was hard.
Well, it's 17-9 right now, still above 500, still over water, still above water in conference at 8-7. But they got Texas coming in. And that's after getting swept. We thought that, maybe you could sneak one of the 2 BYU matches. Maybe you could sneak one of the Houston matches. They've gotten none of them. So they're on a 5-game slide right now after they split with TCU. But Texas comes in number 5 in the country. It's going to be packed. And it's senior day as well, Nick. So what do they need to, when you're in a funk like this, right? You just need something good to flip. What do you think needs to flip?
I think they just need
right, because that's pretty.
That probably says it all, right there.
Hope that Texas is spending time at Disney World and not
find
at the arena.
To win. I don't know. Get around. Find a way to win.
Man, tough. It's been rough.
I don't like crapping on this because they're not like a bad team or anything. It's just
they're just in a rough stretch right now.
Playing great games.
Bryson, you got answers? Give him some answers, Bryson.
Well, I mean, it definitely would help with middle blockers grew a few inches. No, I'm kidding. So because obviously Big 12 is very big, and UCF still needs to be able to kind of get to that point from a player perspective, from a player standpoint. But I think as far as the situation with Texas, I believe Texas actually was recently upset somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I think
they lost to Kansas State in Manhattan last week. Yeah, and they took out some frustrations since.
Yes. So basically, the point is that Texas is not like infallible. You can beat them, especially if you're the one hosting. I think the fact that BYU, which by the way, the Friday night matchup, largest regular season home crowd in program history. Only the FGCU NCAA tournament game had a higher turnout than that, and that's against BYU. So now we have Texas come in, so it'll be interesting to see how. So I think that the fans have really shown up this year, even despite the struggles, they've shown up. So I think that them being that they will definitely help will this team, I think, a little bit as well. And Texas, the fact that they can lose on the road, that'll be interesting. I just think it'll be interesting how they test this team because they've been really going through it these last weeks.
Yeah.
Now the good news is that they've had a good long while to rest, because this game is over a week since they last had their last match against BYU, which is on a Friday. So that is now what, 8 days, 9 days between games. So I think that rest is going to be very valuable going into a game against an opponent like Texas.
As we wrap it up here, Eric, my concern is the RPI, because it's bottomed out. It's down at 62 right now. That's not even on the bubble.
No, in fact, they're trying to hold on to be an NIVC team at this point.
But
so,
if you somehow pull something out against Texas, that could change.
Maybe
that's a tall order. I get it, but
they got to get off. They got to win a set. They've only won one set in the last 4 matches. By the way, the BYU thing, and this is something Jeff and Kyle to put in your back pocket. There were a lot of BYU fans in that building.
Oh, they're a national.
But explain this,
because
I was told by somebody, because I was at the Hall of Fame ceremony while that BYU match was going on, and that came up. There's a lot of BYU fans in the state of Florida. Like, that's something that and I remember this in the 2014 football game. There were a lot of BYU fans at the bounce house too. So BYU could become a draw for a lot of these UCF sporting events. Let's keep that in mind when we play them in basketball and softball and all that.
We've said this before, that they are the Latter-day Saints Notre Dame, and it's not just the university. There's a cultural aspect to that, and they show up. They are loyal. They are loud, and credit to them, man.
That's what I'm saying.
They come out for everything.
We talk about what's the box office. Texas is going to be a big crowd, and it will be, and it'll be a record. But BYU could become an annual big draw, a hot ticket every year because of that. So keep that in mind. That jumped out to me about the BYU match. Also, they have one of the best outside hitters in the country, in Aaron Livingston. And that's the problem. McKenna Melville's eligibility is out. That's the problem. And now we're facing a bunch of teams that have McKenna Melvilles of the world. And UCF doesn't have that, and that's okay. It's a rebuilding year. Get off to a good start. Try to win a set. Get your confidence back. Because if Texas comes out early and wins that set, it's going to be a quick match. And then you still got to go to Kansas and Iowa State, which is not easy either. So it's a rough end, but we knew this. That's the part of the learning curve. This program is learning what is life going to be like in the Big 12. And I think Jenny Maurer and her staff at the end are taking notes and realize, okay, this is what we need to get to compete at the Big 12.
Iowa State RPI 33, by the way, Kansas at 19.
Yeah, and both teams are going to play.
And I know UCF won at Kansas last year. That was last year. That's a better.
Yeah, McKenna's not here.
Better Kansas. Well, also this is a much better Kansas team this year than it was last year. So, all right, Texas, UCF, Big 12 now, 2:00 on Saturday.
Yep, Saturday should be a fun match.
So before the football game,
anyway.
Before the football game, check out UCF Volleyball. All right. We got to wrap it up here on the show. We got Kyle, the student of the game, the SOTG. Make sure you follow him for all the latest. Bryson's at It's Bryson Turner, Nick at Nick Porcelli 2, Eric at Eric Lopez Elo, yours truly at Jeff_Sharon. We got another busy weekend, guys. What am I missing? Anything great? Obviously, the Hall of Fame inductions. We wanted to pass along congratulations.
That was fun.
Everybody, you guys were there. How was it?
I was there. It was a lot of fun. Mark Daniels, great speech there, as well as Shelby Turnier, as well as Delana Sarton, John Hitt's son on his behalf. You had Gene McDowell on his behalf with Manny Messinger giving the speech, the cheerleading 07 national
By the way,
championship.
that man, I know that man a
How about-
lot to Manny.
Oh, no, he did. He was fired. He had a
Yeah.
great speech there. It's all on the UCF sites, too, so you'd be able to check those out. And we had some interviews prior to the event that you could check out on Black and Gold Banner. But it was a fun weekend. It's become one of the best nights of the year, UCF. And it was capped off by a great football win over Oklahoma State. Nice blowout win. So it's certainly a weekend to remember.
By the way, one of my great honors introducing all of them at the football game on Saturday.
Yeah.
That was huge. And by the way, as somebody who covered Delana Sardin when she was a freshman and all 4 years that she was here at UCF, obviously congratulations to everyone. And I know that it was really special for you, Eric, to see Shelby there because of all the games of hers that she pitched that you called. Just as special for me to mention Delana on Saturday at the football game, who, I consider an old friend, and just, man, it's real. First of all, it's really awesome. Delana deserves it. Everybody on there obviously deserves it. Number two, I can't freaking believe that these people are old enough to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, what is happening to us? We are getting old.
Time's flying, but it was cool. I mean, Renee Gillespie was there for Shelby. Todd Dagenais was there for volleyball as well. Yep. So you had Linda Gooch there. Rich Wallace was there because Kyle Bono was inducted from a baseball standpoint. So
old teammates that I called some of their games on student radio too.
I told Rich that too, and he's like, "Don't remind me." Yes, that's
By the way, Jeff, as somebody who was in the stands at Oklahoma State, you did a very great job up there in the stands, especially, by the way, for handling the end of. Heard about how you announced the fans on the field.
Well,
I'm sorry we had to make you wait. I'm sorry we had to make you wait up there for so long for us to get off the field.
Well, first of all, I appreciate it. Second of all, like I appreciate everybody else who was, waiting. We had the most orderly field rush in the history of college football.
Organized chaos you've ever seen.
It was somebody wrote, I forget who wrote this on social media, but somebody said it was practically Canadian in how we rushed the field. Like, we waited and then we opened up the gates. We just wait for Oklahoma State to get off, right? No, we didn't. Nobody tore down the goalpost. Nobody climbed over the thing. Nobody jumped over the cabanas in order to get on the field. And a good time was had by all, and that's how we do it. Like,
was somebody mad about the field goals? I saw a video on YouTube where there was a video of Terry reacting to that announcement, and I thought it looked like, oh, wait a minute, or something like that. I don't know if people were, but the goalposts, by the way, had a police.
They were heavily guarded, shall we say? And there was, and we were always worried, like, you don't want to plant the seed in people's minds, but we had. There was a rumor going around that, before anybody said anything, that they would tear down the goalpost. We were like, we're not going to say it. We're going to make sure that everyone says no, to kind of make sure that everyone knew, no, we're not going to do this. And
we're still trying to raise capital, folks. We don't need that expense.
And by the way, that is an expense. Those things are expensive.
Oh yeah, that's correct. That's why everything, rightfully so was.
Security heard my friend. He had a little too many Bud Lights, and then for the entire fourth quarter, he was yelling, "We're taking it to Lake Claire. We're taking it down and taking it to Lake Claire."
No, you're not.
Kyle was worried about his equipment. He didn't even bother. He just went straight to the media room. He was I've never seen Kyle so like, whatever.
But by the way, Eric, what's the team that they had their goalposts? They're like mechanically operated, where they would like. Where they would like bring them down. Like, I remember, I think it was Clemson.
Might be Clemson because the fans they go to the field after every home game win. So yeah, that might.
Yeah, so their goalposts are like mechanically operated. So like at the end of the game, they would like mechanically put them down. Which was kind of wild. I say we invest in that, but
among many things we need to invest in.
I'll say that was a tremendous moment, just a tremendous Saturday of UCF football. I think it like reinvigorated everybody, to win a game like that, the atmosphere, space game. The uniforms actually looked better on the field than I thought they would.
Oh yeah.
I was a little worried, but I was a little worried about it. But they looked great, especially under the lights. And we had the lights up, lights down was nuts, man. That was fun.
Oh, and it was in the rain too. We were
it was
drenched.
in the rain.
That was a party. That was a great time.
It was just a tremendous experience. That game is going to go down in one of our most fun experiences we've had in a while. And thanks to everybody.
Right with that Marshall. It's right with that Marshall game. Like the parallels with that Marshall game are kind of insane when you think about it.
Yeah, it was fun, but hopefully we'll get another one at some point soon. All right. Wrap it up. Thanks to Bryson. Thanks to Nick. Thanks to Kyle. Thanks to Eric. Thanks to you for listening. Thanks to all the fans for having a good time on Saturday and making our jobs a lot of fun. We will hit you up after the Texas Tech game. Be on the lookout for that. Plenty more content to come this weekend as we wrap up. We got the roundtable coming up. Make sure you follow blackandgoldbanneret.com.
And don't forget to check the wrap up for tonight's game against Cal State Fullerton as well. Men's basketball.
That's right. We got a wrap up coming up on that as well after UCF hopefully takes care of Cal State Fullerton. That game coming up Thursday night as well. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret and Night Shift, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thanks for listening. Enjoy the weekend. Here is to men's soccer. Let's get a dub. Let's move on to the tournament. Survive in advance. Have fun, guys. We'll see you.